Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? This is BC. Welcome back to another episode of Supreme Being. We are every Monday and Wednesday. I'll be traveling this week, so I may double up on the episodes, do one today, do one tomorrow, and then I'll see if I can shoot one while I'm traveling. Huge shout out to Team BC, my real estate team. If you guys are interested in joining, message me or go to jointeambc.com. Huge shout out to Modern Success, right? My coaching program. If you guys are interested, briancasella.com. You can find that link anywhere. That's my website. You can find my coaching there. Link tree in my Instagram bio, wherever you go. We have tier 1 and tier 2 now. I recommend you minimum get on tier 1, but for those of you who are higher achievers already, I really recommend you jump on tier 2, as that one is some next level shiznit. All right. So let's begin. Today, it may be a longer episode. I don't know. I'm live as well on Instagram for this one. I don't do it too often anymore, but I'll give them a piece of this podcast. A lot to talk about today. First, the censorship. Give you guys an update. It's so bad now that when I post that I'm doing a training, they censor it and say that that post of me saying I'm going to be training people here, show up, is a violation of community guidelines and standards. I mean, it's just unbelievable, dude. Apparently, I'm creating a domestic terrorist in their eyes with my training, right? Which is fucking unreal, dude. It's crazy. Anyways, let's begin. So one thing I'm going to tie into, like, just to give everybody an overview, I may talk a little bit about like reinventing yourself, doing something new, and things of that nature today, because I'm going to be a little bit all over the place. This is going to be more of like story time, and maybe giving people a piece of me that they don't really know too well. So a lot of people know that I played basketball before. I don't really talk about it, but I'm going to bring it up on this episode. Okay. First and foremost, my love and passion and connection with the sport of basketball, especially early on when I was still playing, nothing in my existence until I pass away will ever rival that. I already know that. Okay. Nothing that I've done since I stopped playing basketball, I've been as passionate about, right? I've loved, right? I dedicated, I don't know how many years of my life to basketball. So that's like a special love and piece of my life that I moved on from, but it's still there. And I draw a lot from that in what I do now, which I'm going to give to you a little bit on this episode, right? But people need to understand that nothing that I've done, even everything that I've achieved monetarily, success-wise, helping people, reinventing myself, studies, nothing measures up to that, right? And I don't say that in a negative way at all. I just acknowledge it for what it is. It was a time in my life where I truly, really enjoyed, dedicated my life and my existence to that one thing, and I was obsessed with it. Right? And even thinking about it gets me excited. Like recently, I've started playing basketball a little bit again, a little bit. Like I literally play like once every couple of weeks, but like that fire's reigniting. You know, like I played on Sunday. Like, and I think, you know, to describe it even better, I think people have no idea how good I actually am, even now that I don't play. Like if you put me up against the average human being, I will just destroy them. Right? I'm 35. I've had a lot of injuries, but like if we just talk, and this is probably one thing I can say that I was gifted in, is like athletic ability, right? Like jumping high, running fast. Like I trained and worked on it a lot, which we'll talk about. But that's one thing I can say, okay, I was gifted. Maybe not top of the world, but up there. I guarantee you, you line up 99.9% of the world, I'll out jump them, out sprint them, all that stuff. That's just something that I've built, but something that I was born with as well. Okay. So I can even play against competitive people who are still competing right now in basketball and still get the better of them for sure. And it always surprises them because they don't look at me and think that I'm a fucking basketball player. Right. So that I'm getting that like itch again. So I'm definitely going to sign up for a league and play. Like there's just something about it, dude. There's just something magical about it. And I think everybody will, and if you haven't yet, you'll fascinate or be fascinated by and just be wrapped up about something, whether it's something academic, whether it's something physical, right? The physical aspect of our existence and exerting that and perfecting that and molding that, to me, has always been a fascination too, which is why with sports, like, you know, basketball and that kind of stuff and boxing, like I really love that shit. Like I bathe in that shit. Like I can't get enough, right? I love that stuff. Now I'm getting into calisthenics, right? So that aspect of this existence, I truly, truly enjoy and love, right? So, you look at that, I'm getting back into it. Now, before we get too deep into that, you hit and I hit in the timeline age, what, 24, 25, second injury to my ankle, second surgery, that kind of dream gets put behind me all of a sudden. Right. And I'm like, okay, I've had 2 surgeries now. I can't even clear physicals anymore. This last injury, I didn't walk for like, 7, 8 months. This is getting pretty hectic. And right now I'm like entering my prime years. This sucks, but hey, this is just the roll of the dice. Nothing I can do. Really bad ankle injury at 2021, another devastating one at like 23, 24. I'm done. Right. So I'm out of the sport. Now, for me, that was devastating at the time because you have to understand that mentally, I'm somebody who obsessed about this and dedicated their life from age 11 until 24, and to feel at the time, that it was being taken away from you unjustly. It weighs on you, right, mentally, tremendously. That's why it took me a while to get back on my feet and getting transitioning and getting into real estate and then reinventing myself, which is one of the things that I want to discuss today. Right, many people are getting into sales or some other career from a previous one, right? Most people that I encounter and talk to are making a transition from something else, or having liked or enjoyed something else, or had a different career or job, into sales, real estate, entrepreneurship, or something, right? I would say a good chunk, if not a vast majority of people, are doing that. There's a transition or change, not, hey, I'm starting with this, right? So there's a lot that can be said, man. The first thing is this: whatever happened, right? And follow me on this timeline. Whatever happened before, accept it and move on, right? You can look at, and this will be a recipe for your insanity. Like if I try to look back and, well, why did this happen? And why me? And you get into that whole kind of backwards trying to figure it out as if there's something conspiring against you, right? And you get in that whole like victim, I'm a victim of circumstance, right? And you don't just accept what happened, because I could look at that scenario and me getting injured a million different ways. None of that is going to be productive for my sanity, for my mental health, for my progression, and for my future. So I'm not going to engage in it. And I don't recommend you engage in it either. You need to close that chapter, be able to look at it like I do with basketball and still tune into the emotion. Like, again, even just saying the word fucking fires me up. Like, I love it. There's just something about it. And for a while, I kind of pushed basketball away because I still had that kind of victim shit in my mind. I'm like, fuck, basketball, fuck that sport, which is dumb, right? I'm over that now, but for a while I did, unfortunately. But the first thing is that, man, close that chapter, accept it, look back on it. You can, and if you do look back on it, I'd recommend you look at the good, right? The good times and that kind of stuff, because then looking back on it will give you at least a good feeling, and it'll be a positive experience versus just going negative, right? Which anybody can do, and that's always the easier path to take. Okay, that's number one. Number two is, now, one thing you can pull from, and there's going to be many things that I say. Number two would be this: there was something lit. There was something lit inside of you in that particular activity or thing that you really enjoyed and were passionate about. Now, you need to become very familiar with that feeling, that state of beingness, and that whole aura that you have about you in that, right? So if you're going to look back now, tune into that. Look at the contributing factors. What does it feel like, right? How are you carrying yourself? How are you performing? Because I guarantee you that would be, if you have versions of yourself right now, that's like your more actualized self, your more upgraded self, right? More confident, all the stuff that you look for just to have as a baseline, like more confidence, better speaking, being in that state that you are previously, or in that thing that you were obsessed about or passionate about or whatever it is, right? You already exhibit that energy and some of those things there, right? So become a little bit more familiar with that, and pay attention to that. That's something to become very in tune with, would be the proper, language to use, right? But number three is, there was things developed there that now you moving forward into this next thing that you do, you can draw from, and extract and then carry over with you, right? It's almost like you left with bags and there's stuff in that bag or bags that you can use over here. And you have to be able to open the bags and look and say, okay, because what do? We often look at only the negative instead of looking at, okay, I am now a different, more evolved, better version of myself entering this new field. What can I take from over here? So what I started doing was looking at a lot of things that I built and forged over the years through the sport. And very quickly I came up with this huge list of things, right? Commitment, discipline, grit, right? Dedication to learning and mastering fundamentals and basics, keeping a strong attitude all the time, being a leader and stepping up when you have to, right? Being vocal, right? Being calm under pressure, stepping up to the pressure situation, right? Give me the ball. I want to take the last shot, right? That attitude, that acceptance of being the one to carry the squad or the tribe to victory when it's all on the line, when you're all in, when all the chips are on the table, right? Now I could go on and on about that, but there's going to be things that you can draw from what you were doing previously. Now, it may not be the same things that I just said for me, but there's something there that you can pull from, that you can take with you into whatever you're doing next. Now, a lot of people, they don't even acknowledge that. Or they're like, well, I didn't really, get better in anything. Yes, you did, dude. It's impossible for you to enjoy something like that, whatever that is, and put yourself, your all into it and not benefit from it. There really is no way. Maybe your creativity got sharpened. Maybe thinking on your feet and being decisive got sharpened. Maybe dealing with people now, you're a little bit better and more patient when somebody gives you attitude. Maybe you weren't a morning person before, and now you can do whatever you need to do. If you got to wake up early, you'll do it, right? And your adaptability has shot through the roof without you really even noticing it. Right? I'm just giving you some examples now to acknowledge. Maybe you really blossomed in your individuality where before you wanted to conform because you didn't want to stand out. You were afraid. I mean, there's so much I can say here, right? But that's what has to be carried into the new thing, because that has indirectly prepared you for the next thing that you do. In essence, right? At the time, you didn't know, but it has, because as we move forward, something that has to be understood is when a human being is that into something, like when you're that like just intertwined in, and when I say like obsessed and passionate about something, a lot of people, because of outside criticism, they tend to view that in a negative lens. It's not. When you get in that mode, whichever way you want to look at it, positive or negative, you tap into something in the human being that cannot be tapped into unless you're in that mode, right? It's almost like when freak accidents happen and then you see people accomplish these ridiculous feats, like videos of guys like picking up a car or a helicopter because their kid's trapped in there, right? They tap into something that only that situation would allow that to come out. Okay, follow me here. Same thing can be brought back and related to in this particular subject. When you're that into something, when you live, breathe, and eat it, you're that into it, you obsess about it, it's all you think about, it's all you want to do, man, you tap into something that the average entrepreneur who needs to tap into something like that is like, how are you doing that? Like, what is that? What is that? So to me, that's a great thing for people to recognize, because although the next thing, like in my case, you're not going to be as passionate about, right? You know what that is, you know what tapping into that is like, and you can, in bits and pieces and in flashes, throw that in to what you're doing. And whenever you're faced with anything in this new thing that you're doing, you can always recall on parts of you and states of beingness from previously. Because although you may not be as into what you're doing next or as passionate or whatever, you can tap into it from previously because you've been there. And whenever you need those little flashes of brilliance, you can bring it into this new one. right? So all I did was, even though what I'm doing now, I can say wholeheartedly, I'm not as passionate as I was back then compared to like me being passionate about basketball. I can bring a lot of that into this and apply a lot of those same principles and effort and dedication that I did here. I'm just not as passionate about it, but I know mechanically what I had to do back then, right? I know, and I can apply it over here because I've done it over here. It's just there's not that much obsession about it, right? But I can tap into it in a sense because I can find certain things in what I'm doing next, this next career or dedication, that I can tap into like that, right? Like one newfound thing for me in particular was communication and how beautiful it is and how great it is. And now I'm like, man, if I could communicate like I can now, back when I played ball, I would have been next level captain and leader, you know? Fuck. Would have been on a different level. We would have won every game, you know? But then I can find little blips and glimpses of that old self, that drive and that obsession, and I can put it over here, which is awesome to me, you know? I love that. I freaking love that. And you can do the same, right? But it first requires you closing that chapter before, but then recognizing some of these things. And you have to take yourself through that process, man. Because for a lot of people, the reinventing of themselves or doing something new, especially when it's like 180 from what they did previously, like me going from, you know, professional athlete to fucking, you know, in an office suit, you know, real estate guy, harsh transition, right? Polar opposites in a sense, when you look at it objectively. For most people, that's a recipe for disaster because they don't follow some of the tips on this podcast or approach it correctly. So it's going to be, for most people, one of two things. You're either going to do this correctly and take the right perspective and action steps, and then go into this new thing like a bullet train, or you're going to go in like most people. Oh, this sucks, and this isn't what I'm supposed to do, and this isn't my passion, and blah, 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 blah. And that's going to be the story that most people give, and you know, it's going to be the average, right? The average. I don't know about you, but I don't want to move into the next phase or start that new chapter like I did, you know, almost 10 years ago now, unenthusiastic about it, or like, oh, this sucks. Like you're already destined to fail if that's your attitude. When I made that decision to do it, it was like, okay, that's it. I'm all in with this, just like I was with basketball. Except instead of showing up to the hardwood now in the court, I'm showing up to that office. I'm going to be the first one to show up, last one to leave. And the same action steps that I took when I was in my athletic career, I'm going to transition over here to the office, into this, you know, business environment. Fuck it. This is what I got to do. I made the choice. That's it. They're about to see that basketball version of me in the office every day. Competitive as fuck, showing up first, leaving last. You give me something to learn in 10 minutes, I got it. Because that's all I studied for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or however long it took for me to master it. Oh, you want me to learn the script? I'll come back tomorrow with that shit fucking mastered. Because as soon as I get home, that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. Right? Just like me after practice shooting fucking free throws until I couldn't even lift my fucking arms. I would shoot so much with that machine that would spit the balls back out to you. From the extension of shooting, my abs, my top abs would be sore the next day. Now, any hooper will tell you, you have to shoot a lot to have your fucking abs sore the next day from shooting. And I'm sure most fucking players, probably 99.9%, have never felt that from shooting. Right? Unless like you're somebody who never played basketball, then you play like 5 hours one day and you shoot a lot. Okay, you'll probably be sore. But for a person who's that dedicated, like I was, to have their abs sore from shooting, I mean, come on, dude. That's like next level of fucking dedication. So that same mentality was brought over into real estate. So the position that I'm in now, even having evolved past that, am I surprised? Of course not. Why would I be surprised? Look how far I took basketball, even with, you know, unfortunate turns of events and everybody being against me. The fuck would I be surprised that I'm having success here? Now, everybody else might be surprised. I'm not, because I knew the type of person that I am. And whenever I show up to whatever it is, even though it's not basketball, I'm still going to be like, all right, what is it going to take to be number one in this motherfucker? I'll figure it out. Let's go. So when you transition and do something new, that's what you do. That's what you do. If you take that same version of you and you can copy it in a sense and you know emulate it over here, fuck man, like you're already at an advantage, but you just don't see it that way. Okay. Now, this is going to be probably a multi-episode series because there's other details that I want to go into, but for the respect of the listener, I always do these podcasts around 20 minutes. So we'll cut it at that. I think I've already gone over. All right. So appreciate everybody listening. Again, this podcast is on every major podcast platform. I've been uploading it to YouTube. So shout out to everybody. We're at 1,000 subscribers now on YouTube. It's really been growing on YouTube, the video versions that I've done. I don't have many episodes on the YouTube channel, but I appreciate the support because all these recent ones that I've recorded, I put on YouTube. So thanks for the love, even though I'll probably be kicked off soon because you know how the censorship goes. But shout out to Team BC. If you guys want to talk EXP Realty, let me know. If you guys are interested in getting more support from me, I really, really, really recommend you get on Modern Success. For those of you who don't know, that's my coaching program and support system. I can't stop talking enough about it. I know I usually plug it at the end of my videos and podcasts, but you guys really gotta really, 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 really gotta sign up. I mean, there's just so much in there for you. All right, that's it for this one. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.